Screen share. That's good. Okay, that'll work fine. Did I go waiting? I'm sure I did. Okay. Now, if I new share, switch over to this. Okay. We'll see. We'll see who shows up, if anyone. Hello. Let's see how this works. This is getting me nervous, but if no one shows, that'd be okay. Hi, thanks for joining us today. We'll give people a couple more minutes to get logged in here. We've got Sarah. Sarah's on her way.
Perfect.
One other login here. Hi, everyone. We'll give it a few more minutes just to make sure everyone gets logged in, because once I get going, I don't always pay the closest attention to the waiting room. So we'll get going here and just let's give it 102, 103 maybe. All right, it's 102 and I don't see anyone new coming in, and I'll get an alert if someone else shows up here. So I just wanted to introduce myself to just get us started on time. My name is Josh Nickelcaddy. I'm with the Nebraska Business Development Center. As you can see here on this first screen, hopefully that's visible to everyone. These are our upcoming events with the Science, Agriculture, and Energy Innovation Series that we've put together here at the Nebraska Business Development Center. And the final goal of all of these events is to build toward one-on-one engagement opportunities with federal program managers with the SBIR and STTR program at each of these agencies, whether that's the National Science Foundation, U.S. Department of Agriculture, or then the Department of Energy. So as you'll notice there, we've got July 15th, there's ONRAP Agricultural Conference. I don't believe they're accepting applications anymore for people who want to participate, but it would still be available for you to register and kind of you couldn't pitch anymore at this time. You would need to submit that information, but you could still watch then pitches and see other companies that are still in this space. There are one-on-one meetings with USDA and NSF program managers. Those are all to be held virtual on July 27th. And what we're asking, much like with the SBIR week or road tour that you can participate with at another time, and I'll mention that too, is that you submit your quad charts by July 23rd. So the idea for those engagements, for those to be the most meaningful to you, is for the program managers to have an idea of what your technology is and a top level understanding of your company. So again, today, this session, we're going to go through how do you put together a quad chart, what should actually be in that document. And that this is going to be very helpful to you as you're completing that document. Get that to me by July 23rd. We'll make sure the program managers have them so that they can review them, and you can have, although it is a brief encounter, 15 minutes or so, it'll be the most useful, it'll be an effective use of your time because they'll come in understanding already what it is you're trying to do. Now, if you decide to pursue an SBIR, you think it's a good fit for you, and you'd like to submit an application, on August 10th, there will be a SAM registration. The System for Award Management is an interface that is basically how the funds are then dispersed from the federal government to your company, to you as a grant recipient. And so all those registrations need to be done for you to actually go and submit the grant. So that's with our procurement technical assistance people. They'll provide instruction on August 10th. So highly recommend that you participate in that. We have outside consultants who are coming in for the actual proposal preparation for USDA, people that have a lot of experience writing these grants, putting these grants together, and that's on August 19th. There's an Ag Innovation Challenge. Again, that's put on by the Farm Bureau, so not by us. So we're not necessarily going to be able to answer a ton of questions at NBDC about how the Ag Innovation Challenge works, but it is also posted on our website there. So another opportunity for people, especially in the ag space, to promote their ideas. Developing your SBIR STTR commercialization plan. So as a component of the SBIR and STTR, there's the concept itself, the innovation, but then there's also the market potential for it. So you have both aspects of that. And so the August 19th would be to cover the kind of the technical proposal describing that technology. And then August 25th is then continuing that, and how do you scale that up? What does the business case for this look like? Through all of this, you may have at certain points gotten frustrated. So we have an opportunity called Cuss and Discuss on September 15th for you to then meet other entrepreneurs in this space and say, oh my gosh, what was Josh thinking? Why did NBDC put on this series? What I really needed was help on this. Hey, Molly, participant in today's session, did you figure out how to use the USDA's crazy interface for submitting your grant? Things like that, really talking through and hopefully finding mentorship or partner opportunities there. So that's a more free-flowing session. And then just as another note, we have SBIR week, which this year is virtual. That's mostly planned by SBA. So we have a couple of events there on July 20th and July 22nd that you can participate in. But the big thrust of that is from the federal level. The panels that they've put together and all of that. So just to make sure that you're aware, all of these events are listed right here on our Science, Ag, and Energy page. That may be what you use to find today's event, but just to be aware that that all the events that I registered or that I just mentioned, you can register today just at this button here, if any of those sounded interesting. Okay. So that's who I am. And today, what we're going to talk through is the goals for today's session. Oh my gosh, I should not have done this in my office. We got calls coming in. I got people, very thin walls. Anyway, so the goals for today's session are to identify agencies that have funded innovations like yours. We're going to research those funding priorities and arrange meetings with relevant program managers. Now, you're lucky because we have these events that we've set up already, so that you won't necessarily have to reach out personally to the program managers that you find the contact information for. And then we're going to talk through how do you develop a quad chart that's responsive to those agency priorities. So like I mentioned in my email, I want this to be a dynamic session. If at any point I'm just like boring you to tears, that's totally fine. The point is that I'm going to share with you the resources, and you use this time to then find to find solicitations or to find the information that's relevant to you. So I'm presenting you with the tools, and then my hope, my sincere hope, is that you then use them and apply them immediately, so that you have, at the end of this 90 minutes, something that is very useful to your needs. So those are the goals for this session, and we're just going to work through them in exactly this order. So first, we're going to identify agencies that have funded innovations like yours. I will show you each of these tools as I walk through them. So we're going to kind of be switching between PowerPoint and then kind of a live tutorial. But we're going to start with grants.gov, not necessarily because it applies specifically to SBIR or STTR, but just because it's a good resource. You can search that resource using SBIR, STTR at grants.gov, and that you will find all federal grants eventually make it into this large database. So it is a repository where SBIR and STTR opportunities get posted, but it isn't. But that's not the only grant that would show up there. So this is grants.gov. We have a very friendly orange reminder at the top, if you can see that. Up here is where, if you don't have an account already, in the upper right is where you can register either as an individual or as an entity. So you might want to register your organization, or you just might want to register yourself. And you can assign yourself to an organization later. But this is where you can then kind of create a profile, say what it is you do, what kind of opportunities you're looking for. So that's grants.gov. And what really matters here is the search grants tab. So I have a particular interest in SBIR, STTR. So obviously you use that to search for all of your grant opportunities, all of your SBIR grant opportunities, regardless of agency, are going to focus here. Will end up at grants.gov. So we're going to talk specifically about USDA, NSF, Department of Energy, and the specific tools there. But if you think that a different agency is a better fit, and they also have an SBIR program, just know that the Small Business Innovation Research grant opportunities, Small Business Technology Transfer research opportunities also end up here at grants.gov. So, and it would be worth it, I think, as a mini action item of today's session, to create that account kind of as we're talking through these things. So that's grants.gov. The next tool that I wanted to talk about was then kind of SBIR.gov. There are two sections there that I think are the most useful to you. You can first look at the topic areas, all of the different, their full portfolio of technologies that they fund. And then you can also look at the reports to look for award data. So I'm going to pull that up now so that we can look through our SBIR awards. Just looks like it more complicated than I thought to do this. Okay. So looking at SBIR.gov, you can either go to funding, your topic areas, and look for all of the different, kind of topic areas and solicitations. These are only open solicitations that are specifically SBIR. So we're kind of funneling down. Grants.gov is all available grants. SBIR is only SBIR grants, but they're by every single agency. So you can search that. So those are the topic areas, all of the different things, all of the different agencies that fund things. But what I think is also very important is if you go to reports and you go to award data. So this is your first kind of assignment where you could follow along if you wanted to, where we could search past awards, and let's search keywords. Let's say I have a sensor technology, and I searched this before as I was preparing for this session. So I searched sensors. There are 18,451 different SBIR awards that have gone to sensor-related companies. And so I just want to click here on this first one, or that has a lot of words on it I don't quite understand. So let's just keep scrolling. Rotocraft crash sensor. Data link, that kind of makes sense to me. Bottleneck reduction using big data analytics. All those things seem more or less familiar. So let's click through to that award. It was just awarded here by the Department of Defense. So that's interesting to me. The Department of Defense is looking at big data analytics and some sort of data link bottleneck reduction. So clearly there's, I don't know, your tube is making it so that it's hard for data to transfer. And so the Department of Defense would like that fixed. But not only Department of Defense, but specifically the Navy is looking for that. They funded this through the SBIR program, a phase 1 in the amount of just under $140,000 for this to be solved. The solicitation came out last year, and you can also see that it went to Lambda Science Incorporated in Wayne, Pennsylvania, and you have some, kind of contact information here. Not only for the company, but if you keep scrolling, you can see who the principal investigator is this Joseph Tetty. You have his phone number and his email address, and your business contact is the same person. Is your principal investigator is the same as your business contact. I think that's useful because maybe you've never done an SBIR before, and you're nervous about the whole process. And you think maybe it makes more sense for you to be a sub-awardee on an SBIR. So Joseph has, through his company, Lambda Science, has received an SBIR before. Maybe it makes sense to reach out to him, ask him what the process was like, tell him what your capabilities are and why maybe you'd like to be a sub-awardee on this grant moving forward. So I'd like people to kind of take some time now to go to sbir.gov, and I can drop that link in the chat if that's useful to people, and to search right here on the award reports and award data. I'll put this right here in the chat. So please do that. Yeah, grants. Your grant opportunities are going to be at grants.gov. Contracting opportunities are going to be then with oh, there's a resource there. It used to be called FedBizOps. I believe it's transferring over to sam.gov. So your contracting opportunities will exist there. So that came in through the chat. But I'd like us to take time to use sbir.gov right now, go to the awards tab, look at past awards if you would, and kind of see, go through the information that I just presented there, is to see if there's a past award that in any way is related to what it is you're doing, what the kind of project you're proposing, and then to see who has funded that kind of work in the past, and if there's relevant contact information to that awardee. So I'm trying to think if we could just do so let's take a couple minutes, if you would, and do that. Trying to think if there were value-added food products that came through. So even with value-added, I mean, the fits may not be perfect, you know, in many cases they might not be. So this is about plastic waste. Bulk of post-consumer plastics end up in landfills. So how do we deal with plastic waste? Value added, but then there's one that very clearly is Department of Ag, Pop Oats, an innovative value-added snack to promote increased oat consumption. That's kind of an interesting project that you could see was funded through the SBIR program. So you might not necessarily think that some of these are natural fits necessarily with what it is you're seeking to do, but that's why it's worth doing the market research now to see if they have funded, you know, value-added food products like that. And Pop Oats was actually just done in 2019, so it's not a long time ago. So we'll just give ourselves a couple minutes here, kind of customize that search to what it is you're trying to do, what it is you seek to get done. Okay, so would anyone like to share out? Did they do the search and find a project that seems interesting, find a potential collaborator? I know that if I were in the value-added food space, I'd be very interested to, even if I'm not in the oats space, for example, or I don't produce grain at all, I think I would reach out to Pop Oats in Albany, California. We very conveniently, hopefully Mark Pfeiffer is still working there, Mark at Pop Oats or Roger Morris. And I would just ask either of them about, kind of how the process for applying for this grant went. How did that work? Just kind of on some technical details here. And then I guess I'd be a little curious, how far did their $100,000 go? And are they in the process of applying for a phase 2? What happened with that phase 1 funding? So those would be kind of my first steps as I'm looking into where my project might fit, what federal agency might have the most interest in what it is I'm trying to do. So so with that, we're gonna move on to kind of very specific agencies. If unless someone wants to share, did they find a relevant project?
Has anybody used Sbir.gov before or been inside the platform?
I have, but does anyone else on the call looked at sbir.gov?
I also used Surge before.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for unmuting. Great. Okay, so again, we're going to search. We searched awards data by relevant keywords. Hopefully, we identified potential collaborators, and I won't call people out on that, but let's. I think it's a very useful tool. So I highly recommend people use that. Read the abstract for the funded project. I didn't give us time to do that today, but that's useful as well. Kind of how did they describe? I think especially in the example of maybe Pop Oats, how did they describe that work in a way that would make it interesting to the USDA SBIR program manager? And then to get an idea of which agency funded the project. So Pop Oats very clearly is a USDA project. Great. Department of Defense had the sensor technology and was interested in big data, specifically the Navy. So that also might help you to kind of channel your idea into what aspects of it might be the most interesting for that agency. Does it need to be waterproof, I guess, would be my natural question. Does any of this hardware, if it's the Navy as opposed to the Air Force, for example, Air Force might care a little bit more about what it weighs, whereas the Navy might care a little bit more about whether it's waterproof. Something like that, just very top level, but a way to just think about what are the decision points, how might this federal agency make that funding decision? What are the key considerations that they might have? Okay, so into each agency that we're specifically talking about, we're going to start with the National Science Foundation, and we're going to start with the topic areas that are funded through NSF SBIR. So again, this is supposed to be for you finding a topic area that could fit your innovation or your idea, and how might it fit? So not just saying, well, yes, I fit under, and we can do that now. We'll do a live demonstration here. Finding an agency that fits, sure. And if you, I'll share this link as well. So click through to that link, and this is NSF's portfolio. These are all the different project types that they fund. So if you scroll down to technology topic areas, they very helpfully have an other topics, which if you were a value-added food product or something, I don't think that would be that would not be responsive to NSF's specific needs. But if you were, you're not exactly sure where you fit, other topics could be a fit for you. But please use this time now to think, what is the best fit based on based on what it is the goals of your project. So I guess I think, you know, environmental technologies, you know, maybe it's a photovoltaic cell that really, you know, is more efficient at producing electricity from the rays of the sun. And I mean, it could fit in two places, really. I mean, is the underlying innovation the photonics of it, the photovoltaic part of it that makes it more efficient? Is that what NSF would find interesting? Or is it the environmental applications of that technology that would be most interesting to NSF? So really thinking through and clicking through what are the, you know, again, what are the things within photonics? A lot of it is about, you know, lighting and displays, photonic materials. So there's a materials play there potentially, advanced optical components and systems. This also has a sensors piece here. So maybe photonics is the better fit for you. And environmental technologies. Sorry, I'm scrolling so quickly here, but I need to get back to the top. Environmental technologies is then potentially too broad for you to be particularly like responsive to it, you know, or you don't necessarily reduce emissions and waste reduction in the circular economy. Yours doesn't really apply there, but it might for food, regenerative agriculture, and you know, maybe there is a food science play in environmental technologies that you hadn't considered before. So to really be looking through not just what agency, but then which topic within that agency might apply to you. So, and I think the same thing if you're coming with a kind of a medical device or something, there's, you know, is it a biomedical technology? Is it, you know, is it pharmaceutical, you know, kind of thinking broadly about those things, medical devices, all of that, or is it more of a robotics innovation? So thinking about what is the key element of your technology that would be the most exciting. Is it the robotics aspect of it? The fact that it, you know, that you have, I don't know, an incredibly responsive prosthetic, for example, and it relies very much on cutting edge robotics, and that's what would be interesting, even though, sure, it is applied in the medical space. So anyway, that's just a way for you to then please go to NSF NSF SBIR and really think about where yours fits best. And then using that language as you're working on the quad chart. So there is a purpose to all of this, to really think through what's the terminology, what's kind of the jargon that's being used within this agency that I want to then also apply in my quad chart to make sure that they know this is where I fit within your topic area. That yes, it's a prosthetic and it can help with health outcomes. But what's really exciting about this is the robotic applications, not only here, but in other industries. So that could help you craft your pitch or craft your quad chart a little bit more specifically so that you're meeting with the right program manager who then is in charge of the right kind of category within NSF. So does anyone have a topic that they, or you know, their innovation where they're thinking, I hadn't considered NSF before, but I do think I might fit within NSF in a way that I hadn't considered? Okay, well, good. You don't have to share. Nobody has to unmute, but just know I'm glad we're thinking about it. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna move on to Department of Ag here. Now this one's a little bit more complicated to find what exactly it is. What are the different topic areas that you're looking for? So this one, if you've been maybe not fully truthful and not pulling up all of the links to this point, I am going to highly encourage that you do that this time. So we're going to move to that link, and I'll put it in the chat as well because it is not easy to find. It's a PDF. So if you click through to that PDF, what you're going to look at there is, and I gave you a hint on the slides, which are now sadly no longer available, is you're going to go to page 8. So I always ever just do a control find on this document. Let's see if I can get to page or just page 8. And then that list begins on page 8. So it's going to be helpful for you to pull up that PDF and kind of work through each of the topic areas. So this is where you're going to find your contact information. But it's also where you're going to where they will describe what their funding priorities are. So funding and related forests and related resources. So if you're not interested in, or you don't have anything that has to do with growth and yield of trees, or increasing the utility of forest grown material, or urban forestry, but maybe there is an urban forestry play that you have with your technology, then this might not be the topic area for you, and that's fine. That's just the first of many. So we keep scrolling through plant production and protection. So then that's more of a biology play there for 8.2, improving plants. Pollinators and crop production is another area of focus within that topic area. Topic area 3 is animal production and protection. Scrolling through there. Conservation of natural resources. So you might see a little bit of a repeat here if you had an environmental technology that applies or fits within the environmental technologies area of NSF. It may also work with USDA's topic area 8.4. So to know that obviously the priorities of the agency change somewhat, but that if it's if it has something to do with sustainability or environmental protection, or if you look down specifically at water quality and water quantity or soil health, all of those things, you may be able to then apply also within USDA. Food science and nutrition, 8.5. So if you have a food product, this is probably where that pop oats applied would be within topic area 8.5. And then very helpfully here, we are supposed to be in contact with Dr. Mallory Koenigs. So this is who you would specifically reach out to when we get through developing that quad chart, once we have a quad chart and we want to have those discussions. And then it's
something
important
to note with this is last year's RFA. They haven't released the RFA for this fiscal year yet, but it's forthcoming. We expect in the next couple of weeks. And so some of the contacts are going to be accurate in the USDA RFA, and some are changing because they moved their headquarters from DC to Kansas City, and not everybody relocated with them. So still sorting all of that out. But Mallory Koenigs on 8.5 is still accurate because I had visited with her like a month or two ago. So Cheng Mao, if you're looking at that specifically, that's still your point of contact.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks, Sarah. And so then to also look in each of these at, kind of the food safety, what the kind of these are then your subtopics. So there's actually nutrition education, nutrition science, and things like that. So I won't belabor this, but just know that that link is available in the chat. It is a very long, messy link. It is last year's solicitation, but these things do not change so very much from year to year. Those topic areas will be the same. The contacts will have changed somewhat, and Control F for find is your best friend in this PDF so that you can get to the relevant sections. Okay, so we're going to screen share back to then our last agency that we're talking about today. What are the various topic areas, which was our question, and then does a topic area fit your innovation or project? So just to, I mean, I don't want you to think like too expansively necessarily, where you're literally, you know, applying to SBIR with every agency that has an SBIR program. That's not appropriate. But if you have something like an environmental technology or a water technology or something where it could work within USDA, and then there's an NSF application of it, there's a, you know, new and exciting chemical application that works there. I mean, I think those are things that could be of interest to various agencies. So as you're setting up meetings with at SBIR week, or as you're setting up agencies with different program managers, to be thinking, I shouldn't just put all my eggs in the NSF basket or everything in the USDA basket. There are things to different places that could be interested. Okay, and then the last one is Department of Energy. So the research area is funded through Department of Energy, SBIR, STTR. I will show you that link as well, and we'll walk through that site. And then what's also interesting about Department of Energy is just how they work this program. And so we're also going to look at the funding opportunities schedule. So, so we'll go to those links as well. So the first link, and I'll drop this in the chat, are your, what are the different funding priorities that Department of Energy has? This one might, again, just to reinforce, there's an environmental management piece. Obviously, Department of Energy would have more interest in the environment, in the energy component of environmental management. But let's say you have a new kind of photovoltaic cell that produces solar energy just incredibly efficiently, far more efficiently than ever before. NSF could be interested in the energy piece of it, you know, just the photovoltaics part, whether that's a photonics, you know, just as a photonics idea, they care about that. Maybe they care about it as an environmental technology more than anything. USDA, that would be more of a stretch, I think, but Department of Energy has an environmental management area of interest, and so they may fund it that way, or it may just be an electricity, just a plain vanilla electricity play, or an efficiency and renewable energy. So you would need to click through and read what the keywords are in all of these. Solar is right there on energy efficiency and renewable energy. So maybe there you go. That's the easiest one to do, is Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. But to be thinking about where does this fit? And I think this is a good example for as you're crafting your quad chart, and we're going to go through that in just a second here for those who are curious, to then know that these are the kind of keywords, and I think that's useful too, to include and incorporate into your quad chart, so that the program manager, the person that's reviewing it, has a very clear sense that you've done your homework and you know what it is their office, where they work, is looking for, the different types of technologies. And then the last thing about Department of Energy that I'm going to go through is just kind of how the funding opportunities work. Now, this is for 2022. So this is, you know, kind of looking forward, but it works the same. The topics for 2022 will be issued on July 12th, 2021. So that's very soon here, just in a couple of days. Then there's a topic webinar where they talk through all of the different topics that they just announced. Then there's the opportunity announcement is formally issued on the 9th, and your letters of intent, the fact that you plan to apply and what you know, and kind of sort of what that project would look like, is due at the end of that month. You will hear back within a month of whether your letter of intent, whether your proposed project is responsive. So then you would not need to apply. But if if it is responsive, then you have until October 12th to then fully apply, and then you'll know by January 3rd. So it's a pretty long timeline when you really think about when could I expect the funding to come through. So from July to January, and it may not work with certain agencies, but I like how they lay this out. They give you a very clear clear expectation of what's due when, and so even though it is a 6-month window, for that, you do know when things are due and what you need to turn in and when you'll hear about your proposal. So I don't know that we have a lot of Department of Energy technologies on the call or even really within our portfolio, but I think it's important for people to just be aware. I think in the state of Nebraska specifically, we would be more tied with those energy opportunities that have something to do, kind of with ag as well. So, kind of cutting edge or, ethanol innovations and things like that. I think that's really where we fit most within Department of Energy. So, I do think it's worth mentioning and being aware of. So if there's some play with, biomass or some other byproduct of the farming industry or something, I think that's where Department of Energy could have an application. Okay, so we've gone through kind of how the process flows from the FOA, the funding opportunity announcement. That's what FOA stands for. Submitting a letter of intent. I plan to submit a proposal. It looks basically like this, obviously not sharing any proprietary information. You'll hear it, so you submit a letter of intent, up or down. Yes, that is responsive to the topic. No, that is not responsive to the topic. If it is responsive, then you fill out the full application. So that's how Department of Energy works then. Okay, so I think I have a good sense, and maybe we do have kind of a quiet bunch today, and that's okay. But as you're thinking for yourself, and as we're moving into the developing your quad chart section of today's presentation, could your innovation or project fit any of these agencies, whether that's science, ag, or energy? And then which, not only agency, but then kind of which office within that agency. So so that's where your research and that's where your contacts should be thinking about. So not just USDA, for example, but really focusing on, I am applying to Dr. Mallory, whose name escapes me, at topic area 8.5. Like, I'm thinking, what is the terminology that's being used at USDA's topic area 8.5? If you're applying with Department of Energy, it's not so much Department of Energy. Department of Energy is a huge department, but thinking about, I will be applying to the Office of Environmental and, I will be applying to the of Energy Management, the Office of Energy Management. That's specifically the person that, the terminology, that's the person I'm trying to make happy here. So, and then that's where you're going to decide what is your best fit. So, and then NSF, like we were talking about, is a little bit, would they be most impressed with, I've got a, solar panel? Are they most impressed with the photonics piece of this? Are they most impressed with the environmental piece of this? Are they most impressed with the systems approach that I'm using or the data that I'm collecting through this? All of those have their own little sub area. And so to really be thinking about what is the true innovative idea of this, where someone who's in the know, someone who knows about sensors, are they going to say, oh my gosh, that's mind blowing, no one's ever done that before? Or are they going to say, that's okay? But someone who's in photonics is going to say, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that's where where I've got that in italics there. And it's going to be that best fit that's going to guide your quad chart. So now we're moving into, I guess I had a little note here. kind of my view is that you could make a compelling case. Anyone on the call, we've talked before, I believe, could make a compelling case for your technology with NSF, with NSF 1 or 2 agencies. I think NSF or USDA also has a fairly broad mandate, and maybe 3 with Department of Energy, depending on your tech. So I think that NSF is and don't think of it as a catch-all. It's just that they're interested in a lot of things. USDA could also apply, and then Department of Energy is a little bit more, focused in what it is they're looking for. So anyway, it's your best fit is what's going to guide your quad chart. So my very first we're going to go over the fact that we've identified agencies that have funded innovations like yours. Hopefully you were doing that while I was talking. That'd be a good use of your time. Research those funding priorities and have read through those subtopics, those topic areas. And then another piece of this homework has already been done for you. Arrange meetings with relevant program managers. So we have the opportunities, whether it's through SBIR week, to sign up with a specific federal agency. You also have the opportunities that NBDC is arranging with NSF and USDA. So if both of those agencies fit your technology, then you have engagement opportunities that are both going to require a quad chart. So we're going to talk about developing a quad chart right now. So
Josh, before you dive into that, I was just going to say with program managers, we selected those we thought would be possibilities for applicants. And so if you look and you're like, gosh, it's not got the topic area I'm after, let us know and I'll see what we can arrange to get that appropriate person lined up. We just went with best guess. So if they're not there and you're like, hey, those are not my people, let me know and we can get that squared away.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah. So that's very true. There, especially NSF, we went with the agencies that, or with the topic areas that we thought were most appropriate to the clients that are in our portfolio. But we can make adjustments. We always can. Okay, so I sent out a quad chart template before our session yesterday. So pull yours up now. I know that we have people in various stages of development of their quad chart, some that are more done, some that have maybe never started one. And so we're trying to serve all parties here. So I'm going to provide an overview, and then we're going to go through each kind of section step by step. And then I'm going to end with kind of how I feel you could talk through your quad chart as you're meeting with your program manager, in a structure that kind of outlines your conversation. So we're going to start in the upper left, just because why not? So this is your standard template that's coming from SBA, where you're going to complete your company information, state your name, best contact information for your email and your phone. And then you're going to describe your technology. So, and this is your current state. What are you, where are you right now? I think the biggest section, if you were to focus on one in this upper left quadrant, would be the intellectual property protection. What are the assets of the company as we're currently thinking of it? Is is it based solely on, kind of trade secrets? And at what stage of development are we at? Is this, do we have a full proof of concept built out? Do we have a working prototype? Are we, already in stores, in which case the SBIR program might not be a great fit for you, kind of where are we? And I guess the other thing I would say with the quad chart generally is that there really are no wrong answers. I mean, you shouldn't be writing it to try and, trick a program manager into funding you or not. It's just an assessment for them to know, have you met with an attorney? Do you have patents on this technology or no? So again, no real wrong answers. It's just, these are the questions that the program manager will have for you. So it's important to just kind of lay it all out there. Moving over to the right then is the company introduction. And again, this is your description kind of you, who, what expertise do you bring to bear? And I'll get into more detail with that too. On the lower right, I like to call this the ask. They refer to it as the research need, but this is, why are we here? What are we even talking about? Well, we're talking about an exchange of money for work delivered. So I'm at this current state in the box above. I want to get here. This is the research need, and you're going to help me get there by providing me with the SBIR funding in both phase 1 and phase 2 to do this. So, and we'll get more into, kind of how you structure your conversations around this. But my thought there is to be very specific. You'll be seeing an application from me within the next 6 months that asks for this amount of money to hire these 2 people to do this type of work. That's what needs to go in that research needs section. And then the opportunity is, like I was talking about earlier with the commercial piece. It's 1/4 of your quad chart, so it's not insignificant, but it is upon completion of this project, we have this technology developed. Could I sell it? Who am I selling it to? How big is that market? Not looking for, again, just to reinforce it, like I will sell it to literally everyone with a roof. I will sell my new solar panel to everyone with a roof, and it will be a $1 trillion industry or something like that. I mean, again, there are no wrong answers. It's kind of just show your work. What's the process by which you made those estimates? So it's not the bigger the number, the better. It's really show your work, show your math, document that, and show that you've really thought through how many of those target customers there really are. And therefore, if I sell this system to them at $1,000 a pop, this is what the market opportunity could be, and it's not insignificant. But again, it's 25% of the quadrants that you're filling up. So significant, but is not the be all end all in terms of the commercial potential there. Okay. So you can be kind of working through each of these as I talk through them, but and now I'm going to go through them a different way. Sorry. To think about them as you're trying to tell a full story. Sorry, with your quad chart. So don't necessarily think of them as disparate parts. And now I'm wishing I had presented this in a different way, because I actually think you want these to talk to each other. You're building towards your research need. You're building towards your ask. So as you work through your quad chart, and then as you work through that conversation with the program manager, you're going to end that conversation in quadrant 4 on the reason we're here today is because NSF has I'm applying for an NSF SBIR phase 1. I will use that $256,000 to do this. And so you start with the opportunity and to think about that as your problem identification. And that's a subsection of it, is to, I know there's someone on the call here who's making a food product that, or, there's a food product that's being grown that is tastes too acidic. And so it's like, how do we, this could introduce, you're solving multiple problems in terms of the actual food science part of it, but then you're also solving an economic problem. So kind of prioritizing both of those problems, and whose problem are you trying to solve first? Is it the food industry's part of it? And that's the target customer. So to just think through an example is to say, who am I prioritizing? Am I mostly solving a problem for growers? Am I mostly solving a problem for the food industry or the health food industry? Which one of those problems am I choosing? And that will depend, again, largely on the topic area that you've selected. If I choose that I'm mostly solving a farmer's problem, then my target customer needs to be that. If I'm mostly solving a food science problem or a nutrition health food problem, then my target customers are different. And then that also then affects my market opportunity. So these things all kind of stair step together. And I'm just using that as an example because it's the person on the phone whose technology I might have the most familiarity with, but to make sure that those things kind of all talk to each other. So if you're talking about solving a farmer problem, your target customer should then also be farmers, and not then also start to discuss the health food aspect of it. So, so to kind of pick and prioritize. And like I said, I think that agencies will be more appreciative of the fact that you've thought through the implications for your technology and have prioritized one over another, hopefully based on that market opportunity piece. You know, which one has the largest kind of growth potential there. But I don't think there are like wrong answers necessarily. It's just what you've decided to focus on. So that's again, the lower right problem with, or the lower right quadrant, which is the opportunity.
So yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, how to solve the problem for the such as grower. Typically, we work on the research proposal. I mean, we adjust the problem of the stakeholder.
Mm-hmm.
But for the SBIR, does this one may focus on the business first of all to the consumer, or they will evaluate how successful your business, or will value how you solve the problem?
So you're asking who? Sorry, rephrase, please.
Okay, yeah.
Rephrase your question.
So I mean, for the target customer. So typically I think such as for I do the research proposal. So basically we will say we adjust the problem for the ordinary industry, for the different industry. Since those stakeholders have the problem. So that's why we needed to do this research. But for the SBR, this one maybe we may focus on make the business more successful for consumer, or
I think so. I think your bigger industry. So I guess I just think like, if it's for farmers, you have kind of a two-step. You have to, you have to kind of establish a market for it. So even if you're eventually solving a problem for the farmers, you first need to build consumer demand for it. So I think you probably, in your case, do need to start with not the stakeholder farmer side, but more of the health food. You're providing a healthy alternative that has lower sugar, blah, blah, blah. And all the things that we've, kind of talked about in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think your need and problem statement, it addresses the farmer piece of it. I mean, I think that's your second sentence. Your first sentence is the fact that like, it's a very healthy food, but the problem to its adoption is its taste. And so this is the problem that you're solving. And it would introduce, a different type of berry to put in food products or whatever. I mean, I think your focus there is on the food industry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Health foods. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. All right. So that's so just kind of picking basically. And then the response there. So so your opportunity is clearly establishing your problem, and your research need is then focusing on your solution. Now the example that I provided with the quad chart, you need it says seeking funding to test this platform on diabetes, high blood pressure, and abnormal cholesterol levels. I really think you need to design that study more fully than that says. So at least because it's a specific ask, you need to have an example that says, I seek $250,000 from the National Science Foundation or U.S. Department of Ag to, and then itemize what it is that you're planning to do with that funding. So if you have, kind of a list of what that study over the next 6 months looks like, I don't think that it won't hurt you at all to have a plan, a business. What does what does the work look like over the course of the next few months? So, so again, there needs to be a correspondence between the problem you've identified and the solution. So I guess using the farmer health food idea again, then your solution, your ask should be focused on the food side, not so much the grower side. So again, that's what the thrust of your study should be. So just try and keep it into a very self-contained document. Okay. The other one is this one is where you're really talking about your resources. And if you don't have a company history, you don't have 20 employees, like I said before, they're not wrong answers exactly, but what you're trying to do is it's a documented history of success should be what we're going for. So maybe your company does not have a documented history of success, but you personally, in your research, in your academic pursuits or whatever, in other grants that you have, basically this is de-risking it for the agency. So you're saying you are not throwing money down a money hole. You are funding me, my company, in a meaningful way to deliver real work. And I have a documented, I think the quotes, if there's a quotes for this slide, it would be the documented history of success. I know how to do this. I've received grants before. I know what being a responsible, a fiduciary, a responsible steward of funding looks like. So when it says kind of number of employees, that's where you can sneak in some biographical information about yourself. If there are, no product sales to date, that can be fine too. Maybe you've mostly been funded by grants to this point. That's fine. That's a way to put that information in there as well, to say like, well, we've been in a research phase to this point, but we've received funding in the following, through the following mechanisms, and we've delivered X, Y, and Z on that. That's what you're trying to establish, is that there's a customer, that you know what you're doing. The facility description, I mean, just to make sure that it's clear that you have the capability to be able to do this work. And then your mission should also reinforce the fact that you're helping the food industry, maybe, with then, and then as a side benefit, you're also helping farmers to diversify what it is that they can grow. So I mean, but your primary, just to always be, this also should reinforce that there's a problem, here's my solution, and oh, my company is uniquely situated to also address that problem. So those things should all kind of tell a unified story. And then again, like I said, with your technology development, this is a description of the current state of this specific technology, not the current state of your company, not the current state of you as a person, but what is it that's already been developed. So if there's only been basic research done, that's fine. That's just where you are. So don't fudge that to try and make things look better. Just say we're at a basic research stage. That's okay. Intellectual property protection can be the same. You have you don't have any patents, but just know that will be something that the program manager will ask you about, is to say, what is the status of your intellectual property? That's something that you should prioritize. Again, just accurately report where it is you are and what your project, what your intellectual property looks like at this point, and then be ready with a good answer when the program manager asks about it. Technology research and overview. I mean, this is again a description of your current state. So this is then leading to that ask where you're saying, this is what we know already works. This is where we are currently, and with it's setting you up for that last quadrant, which is we still have these questions to answer, and that is precisely why we're having this conversation today. And then your value proposition is why, why you think this is the appropriate approach, why this over alternatives. Okay, so then this is, I kind of previewed this before, but the concept is that when you have those conversations with the program manager, I would start with the opportunity, and try and make that as relatable as possible. I know that this has been done with the folks on the call before about maybe no one's tasted an aronia berry before, but they have tasted a cranberry, or they maybe haven't ever found they've used an app, but not one quite like this. It doesn't quite do, it doesn't help in the following 5 ways that mine will. And so kind of addressing or, being as relatable as possible as you're kind of entering into this, what ends up being a little bit of a sales conversation, and saying that, this is the need or problem experienced specifically by this set of customers. If I could effectively address this problem, it would lead to this amount of revenue. And then that's kind of how you're going to end that market opportunity, conversation. Then you kind of move that section of the conversation. Then you move up to the company introduction piece. Why are you uniquely qualified to address this opportunity? What do you currently have? And then again, ending on where do you need to be, and what about the federal agency's support would help you get there? And so then being as specific as possible, far more specific than this quad chart demonstrates, with what you see that project as doing. And then that really gives them something to talk with you about and say, do you need to do this, this aspect of the project? Could you, do this other thing instead? Could you use the funding to expand item 1 and not do item 4? And that's fine. I mean, I think that's a better conversation to have about, the specifics, how exactly this is being implemented, as opposed to kind of speaking in generalities about how amazing this will be if funded. But to just really lay it out there and say, this is what it would cost to do these 5 things. And that's why we're, kind of talking today. So I know that as you're getting ready for SBIR week or our events, the quad chart is a required component of both of those. So I know people are working on them, and to just be aware that our office is available to review them for you, provide feedback, and help you kind of make the most compelling and relevant case to those program managers that you can, based on the information that's available here. So if anyone needs the template to be sent again, then I can do that. There will be time for questions at the end also, but I just want to make sure that I put this up so that people are aware of the upcoming events and the upcoming opportunities to participate in things. And that people just really take advantage of the one-on-one opportunities and talk through their project with a program manager, someone who's actually going to be on the panels and say yay or nay to this project. So does anyone have any questions, concerns?
Do you know, is there a reason why it starts with 1 in the bottom and you go counterclockwise?
So I did that. I think that when I was thinking about how would I have this conversation with the program manager, I didn't want to start with the ask. I think it makes the most sense to end with, thanks for your time today. Also, I need $256,000. So I like the idea of introducing a problem and establishing why it's a problem, saying, getting them excited about my solution, and then ending with, but for us to get there, I need cash. So that's my recommendation for I mean,
right,
there
but
they will have.
visually, does that matter? Right, so
What?
visually, we're showing like opportunity on the bottom, right? Is that
Mhm.
how it's supposed to go? Is that what they would be used to seeing?
Yes, yeah, it should be structured this way. My numbers are only for when you're talking about it.
Okay,
So
okay,
when you go into the conversation, and some program managers aren't going to want to be, kind of pitched in that way, and they will just come with questions, and then you'll answer their questions and kind of, you find a format that works for you. But in the event that the program manager is just kind of staring at you and saying, Sarah, give me your best pitch. My thought was, I think I would start in the lower right and go counterclockwise and work around it that way. So just a suggestion. It's not required by any means, but I thought it was the most natural for me progression. So were there other questions?
So for the meeting on 27, so I think I would have 15 minutes to talk to the programmer, right? So how long
Yeah.
we should stay with the meeting and when we should join the meeting?
So log in about 5 minutes beforehand, and you'll be just in a waiting room. And then immediately when your meeting time starts, you'll be entered into the room.
So we will get the time, say when should we log in, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get directions on all of that. Yeah, on when to log in. And I would just sit in there, like, I don't know, 5 minutes early. So in the event that the meetings are going a little bit quicker, but generally speaking, we'll just plan to start right on time and then cut you off exactly at 15. Okay, well, kind of a quiet group today, and that's okay. I hope that it means that people were working on their quad chart as I was talking, or finding relevant solicitations as I was doing that. I know everyone's contact information, so if you have questions in the meantime, please reach out to Sarah or I. We're here to answer those and review quad charts and provide feedback as just an unbiased third party that can say, especially I think on the opportunity sections, what doesn't necessarily feel like it holds water. What needs to be explained further? Sarah's great with that, especially with me, to just say, like, I don't understand what it is you just said, and I need further clarification. Sarah's great with that, I know, and she's great at guiding clients in that way too, to make sure that they're fully explaining their business case and are making the most persuasive case that they can. So do we have any other questions? Otherwise, I think we can wrap up just a little early if anyone, if that's it.
How would you go about getting a patent for your business or company?
So I have recommendations for you. I mean, in terms of, you're going to have to, it's work with an attorney that you would need to do. So an attorney would be in the best position to advise you on what exactly is patentable in the first place. For example, if you're working on software or something, that's a copyright, not a patent. And that's about what I know. So I start to be dangerous after that point. But an attorney would be able to tell you what exactly is protectable and how best to protect it. And then you don't have to share all your secrets with them, but you can, and they'd be professionally bound to not share them with anyone, but then they could tell you what exactly you should do. Maybe certain aspects of your business remain trade secrets, for example, or you should patent this and then protect with trade names or whatever. If you have just or processes, how do you patent those processes or whatever? So we have recommendations or kind of referrals, people that we've worked with in the patent space before. You can use them or not, but I can pass those along to you too.
Oh, perfect. I'll be grateful.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll follow up. I can follow up with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, if no, I guess we'll just call it early and we have 15 minutes of your afternoon back. So thanks everyone for your time and attention. Hopefully it was instructive. And if you have any questions specific to your case, please reach out and we're more than happy to help you with those. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, George and Sarah.
Yeah, of course. Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Do you want to hit stop record?
Oh yeah, probably.